Welcome to Relationships 360, where Certified Relational Wisdom Instructor Stacey McKay will be sharing topics and introducing guests that will discuss many ways to navigate all relationships, business and personal. If you want to go beyond emotional intelligence and learn to be relationally wise in all facets of your life, then we know you'll enjoy this show.
Hi, I'm Stacey McKay. Welcome to my show, Relationships 360. My goal with each of our episodes of Relationships 360 is to have on great guests that have one element that really works well within relationships. And my guest today is Jamie Miller. Jamie is with Conscious Communication.
Yep.
And I'm very excited to have him on because communication is so key in all of our relationships at home and at work and in every person that we meet. So Jamie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me on board. I appreciate it.
Thank you. So tell me a little bit more about what is conscious communication?
Right, what is conscious communication? Okay, so obviously you share that communication, it affects all walks of life, any relationship. Mm-hmm. So the idea behind conscious communication is to really know not just what you're saying, but why you should be saying a particular thing. So what I've found is a lot of people, when it comes to asking questions, if you've learned, right, that whoever's asking questions leads to the direction of a conversation.
This is true.
That might be new information for some of the people who are viewing this, but people are taught typically that asking questions is important. When we think of relationships and certain questions that might not seem so conscious, so hopefully the viewers get a higher elevation in their knowledge of this. A good example would be someone's in a relationship with someone and one person does something wrong to the other person. The typical person, the human trait is to ask a question, what were you thinking? Why did you do that? And then when you ask someone why they did something wrong to you, you've asked a question that can only lead in one direction. They're now going to go and think in their head, this is why I did it, all right? And they're going to take up your time, which is the one commodity we understand we're never going to get back.
Never going to get it back.
And they're just going to make you angry because you've asked the question, why did you do it? They explain, get angry. So a more conscious question at the very beginning would be to turn around to that person, can you share with me the reasons why you shouldn't have done that? All right, so it's basically asking the exact opposite of what you should be asking. And then what's happening is the other person is now thinking, why shouldn't I have done that? Okay, now I'll show you why I shouldn't have done that, showing you that you have a greater understanding, all right, of why they shouldn't have done it. Is that a good,
yes.
Would that be a
So
good
really
start?
it is in that conscious mind. You're taking things out of why we so often have learned to do things in a subconscious way and as being very conscious of our words, our actions, how we're saying things, but probably more importantly, why we're saying it.
So for instance, obviously they can probably tell if viewers in America are watching this, and obviously people around the world, I'm not a local Floridian born and raised, okay? So if people just focus on the words what I'm saying and copy it word for word, they're not really grasping why I'm saying it. When someone grasps the exact words why I'm saying something, they can then internalize and make it their own.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
So I think if people have a real that consciousness, awareness in moments of, let's say, to businesses, just real quick off the cuff. Most people in business, they think they've got something that's so amazing, all right, and they get to this place when someone doesn't take advantage of it that they want to ask that person, why wouldn't you do this? This is the most amazing thing on the planet. Why wouldn't you do this? You've asked a question that why wouldn't they do it? So they're thinking of, well, now you've asked me why I wouldn't do it. Let me share all the reasons why I won't do this as an alternative. I know partly we've discussed in the past, and obviously relationships and pertinent to helping people, relationships, the relationship between a father and their kids, all right, or a mother and their kids, all right? It's always more impactful. No one likes being told what to do. When you were a kid and your parents told you to do something,
Don't do this.
all right, you didn't like it, right?
Right, true.
So I never tell my kids what to do, but yet there are things I want them to do, right? So if I want my kids to clean their rooms or make their beds, I'll never tell them, kids, go clean your rooms, make your beds. I would turn around and make it leading questions where I make it their idea. So I'll be like, Ruby, Harrison, do do you love it when dad's happy? And at this stage of life, they're like, yes. So I'll be like, okay, so what around the house right now can you be doing that you think would make me happy? And they say, cleaning our rooms, making our beds. I'm like, that's a fantastic idea. I agree with you. All right, and then,
I love it.
All right, so the idea is to end the dialogue. If you can end dialogue with the words, I agree with you, you've not told them, you've got them to tell you, I agree with you, and that can happen in every dynamic.
Yes.
All right, so.
Yes, getting even those clients in a working relationship, getting that same buy-in where they're now giving the information and now you're agreeing with what they're saying, where essentially the end result is you got something from them as opposed to telling them what they need to do or why they need to do it. You get them to tell you.
Perfect. So that's a good example. So I use a one-off question that I use in all walks of life. So an example of that would be asking them what's in it for them. All right, to do something. So my first initial question, rather than like, why wouldn't you use my services? Hey, if I asked you to share, without telling you anything about me, if I asked you to share what benefits you think that you would get by utilizing my services, what ones would you come up with? And it's a question, and the human brain is then processing conscious responses on why. If I ask, I could say to you, Stacey, right now, what benefits do you get, Stacey, by bringing me on this show and talking to this audience? What benefits would you come up with? All right, and now you have to think.
Absolutely.
And then you share benefits. So.
Yes, I love that. And one of the things when I first met Jamie and we began to talk about this, I've been a speaker for many years, went through Toastmasters, I teach, I train, I get in front of people. And just a few of different tips that I learned from you, that the next time I did a presentation, which Jamie happened to be sitting in that, he was gracious to come to my Relational Wisdom, Exploring Relational Wisdom course, and I did exactly what he said. So sometimes it's asking permission. Let's talk a little bit about permission, and then I'll maybe share how I took that and turned it into a buy-in from my audience. So.
Absolutely. Okay, so a lot of speakers, you said you've been speaking a long time, and one thing that I've noticed is very commonplace in the speaker world is the speaker will get up in front of the room and they'll typically tell a story, and they may have, in a lot of cases, really good intentions on telling the story. But what the room hears when you just get up and you like, let me just start by telling you my life story. It started when I was 2 years of age, and it's like, just by prefacing, hey, is it okay if I share with your story and garnering permission, you're going to, and then you garner a yes response from the room. Right. They've given you now permission, then you can share. It's just a nice way of prefacing.
Yes.
One of the things I taught my daughter Ruby, if you ever want to tell someone something, there's only one rule: ask permission first.
Yes.
Right, and that with relational wisdom, and if I may, I think that class, if you remember, there was a video that you showed, and it really, if you guys can relate as you're watching this, where it hits a good nerve of a memory that you had grown up. Like it literally, I watched a small clip that you showed, and it hit home a memory from when I was 10 years of age. So going back 32 years, not giving away my age, all right? And it was a very fond memory.
Right.
And that one memory actually is so pertinent to me even being sat here next year, which is a good experience for me. So I think what you do in terms of relational wisdom is very important. So just to share that. I think with regards to telling people things, if you think of relational wisdom, it makes you think of relationships. So so I know that two people, when one person has one opinion, one person has another opinion.
Right.
All right. And then one person tells the other person what they think, and the other person then tells them what they think. You then have what's called an argument. Right?
Yes.
So in order for the most effective communication in an argument, just the same strategy of, hey, room, is it okay if I share a story? And then once I've shared the story, you'll have an understanding as to what the relevance is of that story here today. Is that okay with you all? Okay, you're asking permission, you're getting permission, you share.
Yes.
Someone tells you something you don't like, you never should say I agree with them if you don't agree. You should never use the words I disagree with you, all right? And you want to avoid the word but. Okay, like no one likes a dialogue when they think I feel like there's a butt coming. So in a conscious communication, if someone says something that's out of whack with my beliefs, I would turn around without agreeing or disagreeing or the word but. I would say, you know what? I can get completely why at this moment in time you might be thinking that way. There's something I haven't shared with you yet. Is it okay if I share something with you? All right, and you garner a yes, okay, and then you give your opinion, and then at the end of giving your opinion, you will follow it up with a question. Now that I've just shared that, does that make more sense? Can you see where I'm coming from with this? And therefore, you don't have an argument, you have an acceptance from the other side.
That is great, and there was no but in there.
There's no but in there. There's no I agree with you.
Because we all know when that word but is there, it negates all the other words. Somebody can say, I think you're great, you're awesome, but...
Yeah.
And then that's what they really mean. So we're going to take a short break, and as soon as we finish the break, we'll come back and we'll find out some more great information on conscious communication from Jamie Miller.
Great. Thank you.
Relationships can be tricky to navigate at home, work, well, honestly, in all our relationships. But there is a way to deal more effectively with relationships and the emotions that fuel them. Relational wisdom, the cousin to emotional intelligence. You may be wondering, what exactly is relational wisdom anyway? Well, it's the ability to discern emotions and interests in yourself and others, to interpret them in the light of your personal values, and to use those thoughts to manage your responses and relationships constructively. Most likely, you've heard of emotional intelligence, but learning concepts about relational wisdom helps us understand ourselves, others, and how our values impact all relationships. Countless individuals have been helped by learning and applying relational wisdom in their life. Find out more by visiting StaceyMcKay.com. That's StaceyMcKay.com for more information on live and online training.
Welcome back. So as you heard before our break, we were talking to Jamie Miller about conscious communication. Already was just getting a wealth of information and knowledge on how we can be better communicators. And Jamie is an expert in this, and he's actually helped me. I'm a little older than him, and I've had years of running my mouth. Well, let's say communicating, and as an instructor as well. One of the things we were talking about before the break was permission, and he gave a great tip to me that I have begun to employ as I'm teaching, and that's instead of just getting up and starting to tell my life story as we talked about, I asked that permission. So it was really great because Jamie was in one of my classes right after he gave me this tip. And I listened,
I smiled
and he
as
smiled at me, and I did everything to keep from giving him a wink that I get what you taught me and that I'm employing this. But it was really great to get that audience to say, yes, that we agree. It's fine for you to share. And I had a chance this past week, again, I did a teaching up in Daytona to 15 business owners, entrepreneurs, and I was actually talking on the topic of peacemaking and conflict, and get very personal into my own story of, marriage issues that I had and how we walked through that. So that was extremely important in that place to ask for that permission, because I was going to be delving into some real topics that could maybe make people uncomfortable or thinking, if I just started pouring my life story out, but I had garnered that permission. So just those simple tips that, as a communicator, helped me with the conscious communication.
What it does, and what I think you shared with me is, it removes ego. Ego is not a good thing anyway to have. So you want to try and remove I, you, yourself with John, and you're very vulnerable in sharing your story, and I think it's great. And John was actually in the room with me at the time.
One time, right?
And when you encompass that we, like we're in it together, that's a powerful component. And I think you shared that during the lunch that you actually got accolades from the group, that it was like, thank you so much for sharing. And you probably realize when you share in that fashion and you garner permission first, what happens is it makes it a more safe room for others to share
as
their
well,
stories,
and they did, and
which
we did.
you do garner from the room too. Hey,
Absolutely.
like this is a safe room. You can all share your individual experiences from that. So no,
Well, and just like you talked about, ego, nobody wants to be known as this person like, oh, they're self-righteous, or boy, did they just pat themselves on the back. And coming out of that.
It's interesting because I think a lot of people do actually want to be that way, and the idea. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel that, you know, sometimes you hear that 80-20 rule, like 80%, 20%. I feel it's more like, I think that's very generous. I think 2% of the world actually is really aligned, and then 98% are the masses which do stuff. And I feel that these kind of teachings are to elevate people's awareness in their relationships. I think that when you can remove ego, you're actually putting yourself into a rare kind of mix, and it actually humanizes you, humbles you, and that's when you get the compliments of you're very humble. Like that's when you get me saying genuinely, like I think you sharing your vulnerability. I don't think that's a commonplace scenario
that we see. A lot of people don't want to really be honest about the failures or trials or tribulations that they've been through, but people resonate with that when you are vulnerable, and you do that because you go, wow, they went through this and look where they are, and they're being honest about it. So it creates that trust, a level of trust. So I love that you're not just about business. You use the example of your children because much of our life is spent at home. It's spent with our families. And oftentimes we learn stuff in the business world, and yet we don't mirror that same thing in life. Or we can practice it. It's you practice it with your kids and you go, wow, this really works, so I can use this in a business setting.
It's very interesting because one of the strategies I use to teach is, as you mentioned that, I call myself like the Mr Miyagi. For those of you who don't know, Mr Miyagi from Karate Kid.
Wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax off, right? And that's perfect. And I show a room of people wax on, wax off because when I'm teaching businesses communication skills, I'm like, I'm going to share with you interactions I have with my kids. I'm going to share with you interactions I have at the gym. And I'm going to share with you how that strategy transcends that situation and is applicable in your business. For any people on here who are running your own businesses, the same interaction I do with my kids can be applied. So I'll give you, would it be okay if I give you an example?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if I think of, just reach over here, a device like this, okay? One of the reasons communication is so critical is, would you believe me if I shared that a lot of kids, future generations, they get very anxious about face-to-face because they spend all their time looking. Now, without giving away our ages, we grew up in a time, thankfully, when that wasn't just in existence, correct? Well, let's say my kids are on their devices, right, and I don't want them to be on it. The same theory as, do you like it when dad's happy? I would use a strategy called what, why, how. All right, which is something that you, all right, which just for a relation, like, so it gets people to an emotional space, all right? Give you an example, Ruby, is it a good thing or a bad thing to be on your device too much? It's bad, Dad. Why is it bad? I'll end up with no friends and a hermit in a room all by myself. Ruby, that doesn't sound too good to me. How would you feel, Ruby, if that was your situation in life? Oh, it'd be terrible. Okay, so when it comes to your device, what are your thoughts? I don't think I should be on it so much. I agree with you. All right, so that's it's got her to an emotional space where she's shared with me. She doesn't want to end up being in a room all by herself.
Yes.
So if you think of, for your relationships...
What, why, how?
What, why, how? Yeah.
That's great. And it's getting them to actually regurgitate the information as opposed to you just telling. Nobody likes to be told.
No one likes to be told. And I believe no one likes ego, so it's good.
Exactly.
It's a win-win.
Yes.
What is, from a standpoint of consciousness, and if the viewers can, if they put themselves in my shoes and they were sat here and they wanted to help someone who's legitimately going out there and helping the world to make it a better place. Right. What is something that you think that viewers should know about you? And if you notice that, that's a conscious question.
Yes.
As one individual trying to help another individual.
I love it.
From that standpoint, what is something that you like, when someone leaves that relational wisdom workshop? I know that I left with a very positive mindset, and I would love for other people to go through it.
Yes.
What is something that before you get up there, when they leave this room, this is what I would love them to leave with.
What the heartbeat is. Well, first off, not just getting information that you just set in a shelf and that you just close up that book, the workbook, and you put it on the shelf and there's no application. Because for any teacher, I tell people if there's not application, then you just wasted your time and my time. So my goal is that these principles are applied in your life. And with relational wisdom, we have acrostics, we have various things that make it easy to remember when we're just out there. Say, for example, one of the premises self, others, and our values, and where our values line up with that. So even if it just makes people more conscious to think when they're having a conversation or they're having a conflict, that they're not just thinking about their self, that they are thinking about the other person. And is what we're saying to each other, is it lining up with our values? My little phrase that I love to say is live out what you say you're about. So are you taking what we learn, that we learn from our fellow human beings, just like I learned something from you, am I going to now take that and apply it in my life? Am I going to live out what I say I'm about? And so if people take the information that they learn in relational wisdom and they live it out, then I'm going to be a happy camper. I'm going to be so excited that the information that was imparted to them was then played out in their life in some form or fashion.
As you just shared all that, can I share something with you that just went through my mind?
Yes, please.
What did I just do? I asked permission, all right, to share something first,
See?
all right?
See? Great example.
Practice what you preach. All right?
Yes.
One of the things that I left with that I've actually really been critically aware of myself, because I know it was new information to me. And you can help me if I'm...
We're going to talk about the amygdala?
I was just about to say, did I pronounce it correctly?
I knew it.
The amygdala, all right?
Yes.
Because I was like, I honestly thought at that point, this sounds scientific. The first part, first part of you saying amygdala, I'm like, oh no, Stacey, you're going to lose me. I'm not a science buff here. And when you started actually explaining what amygdala is, I internalized, my kids are probably going to say you have a bunch of those kind of moments, all right? Like my daughter will say, Dad, you get angry and then for 5 minutes and then you want a big hug, all right? Like I'm someone where I get angry quick and then I want a hug. And I found myself, just to give fuel to the fire of what you were just saying, what the application, the not letting something sit on the shelf. I either see other people having amygdala moments, or I actually have myself, caught myself, like, Jamie, don't have an amygdala moment.
Don't do that.
And I've actually found myself, this is so true. Right. The more you teach something, the better you get at it. All right, so when you learn something new and you then teach others, you become more pronounced in it.
Yes.
I'm actually sharing with other people out there, that's an amygdala. All right?
An amygdala. And if you want to know what amygdala is, then either sign up for the online course or come to one of my live trainings.
I promise you that will absolutely... If you can just garner and understand that alone, your life will be more peaceful. I can 100% attest to
and
that.
It is scientific because it is how we were made, and it's part of our brain, and it is part of our emotional response. And all information that comes in goes through a part of our brain called the amygdala. And we have responses.
I know that being British in America, everyone thinks that naturally that must mean you're smart, all right, or anything that comes out of your mouth is smart. I promise you, I'm a Forrest Gump. My mum bought me a book of Gumpisms at Christmas because I really consider my friends in England, just as quickly as I can. I'm going to London next week, and we're meeting up with my friends, and they said it's quiz night at the pub. I'm like, do you remember what kind of student I was? All right, like to them, because I really wasn't the sharpest tool in that. I pride myself. But what I'll share is when you say a term like amygdala, I honestly thought you were going to lose me, and you didn't, and it was so helpful. So seriously, guys, if I can understand and grasp it, I promise you can. You will grasp that.
And it is a great concept, and it was the thing the first time I ever went through the course when Ken Sande taught it, who actually wrote the course. I had that aha moment. And sometimes when we're being taught and we have an aha moment, and it helps to bring clarity as to why people act the way that they do, or if you've ever been around somebody that has an emotional outburst or emotional response. That's coming from the amygdala before it can get to the rational part of your brain, which is your neocortex. And it's nanoseconds from when that information comes in, and if it can't get to the rational thinking, so many times you have somebody just blow up. You just say something and they just explode, and you're like, so what did I say? And it's normally because they are having that emotional response or an amygdala response. But we'll get a chance to teach you more about that in the future as we wrap up today's show on communication. I'll have information on my website at staceymckay.com where you can be able to get in touch with Jamie. So if you see this show and you are actually interested in finding out more about conscious communication or being able to have Jamie come and speak to your group, he speaks all over Florida to various groups about conscious communication, how to hone those skills and apply them in your work relationship as well as your home relationship. You'll find his information on my website at staceymckay.com.
Awesome.
I appreciate you being on today. Thank you so much, Jamie.
Cheers.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks, Stacey.
Thank you for joining Stacey McKay on Relationships 360. Please remember to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes. For more information on relational wisdom and other business and training courses offered by Stacey McKay Company, visit their website at staceymckay.com, where you can check out videos and get in contact directly for more information.